What would happen if you or somebody else was never born? And what I mean by that, what if the Lord just placed your knowledgeable spirit inside of a human body here on earth? Would you perform what he sent you here to do? Here's what would happen. If you came from the living God to this earth, put in a body, first of all, you would have knowledge of the heavens, which would make a job down here almost impossible for direct human-to-human interactions. You would have to work in the capacity of the unseen. You cannot work in the capacity of the seen. You couldn't do it. Why, you may ask? Because you would upset something that's extremely delicate. So let me tell you this, you're born in a body. You don't know where you come from, and it's meant to be that way. You grow in this body, and you think this body is you. It's meant to be that way. You are exposed to plenty of things in the earth through this body of what you think this body is you. So when something happens to it, you are directly affected. When you see something happen to somebody else's body, you are directly affected. That's very important. This brings out of you compassion, empathies, and all those things. You're gaining proper development. If you came from the heavens and were put in a body, you would know that you're not attached to the body. If you saw somebody else being hurt, you would see the truth of the matter and react by way of the truth, not a lie. That means you would not cry for them. You would not be as empathetic to everybody as you would think, because you would know the truth. And when somebody died or passed away, you would not cry either, because you know they don't die. You know they don't pass away. They simply transition. So it would be impossible for you to connect with other human beings. If that would happen, thus you would have to work in the invisible realm. You'd have to work a different way. Because once you see truth, you cannot blind yourself to it. You would operate by truth. That makes you a very different person. You would not respond with that childlike motivations that we often exhibit through life. You wouldn't do that. You would not be prone to the same mistakes that we make. Thus, nobody would accept you into a group to really confide in or talk to. They wouldn't do it. And they would eventually see you as something else because you would know truth. You would speak truth. And men would probably begin to worship you because of your knowledge and because of the drawing that you have within yourself, because of how you treat things. So you would be seen as something very different than anybody else. That wouldn't work. The Lord had you born in a body. You don't know where you came from or anything else. And so you're born in this body, and this is what you truly think you are. You learn many things in this body because you're exposed to different things. You have compassion upon animals because you know what cold weather feels like. You know what heat feels like. So it raises enough compassion within you to give an animal water. You're very kind to other things because you understand the plight or the struggle of other things. That way you can interact among others around you. Then the Lord introduces you to the knowledge of the faith. And when you're introduced to that knowledge of the faith, you still start another track in your life where you encourage others to live by way of truth, the real truth. And it's a very vast transition that you make. Because there's confirmation that things in the Bible are real, yet you have no proof, and so that keeps your journey going. And through that journey, you help others. See, because when you're born in this body, you live by example. That means if you see one person do it, that means you believe you can do it too. And the more you see people doing things, the more hope you have that you can do it also. That's the way it works down here, right? This first stage of your life, for a lot of people, is a growth stage. And because you have not known righteousness to touch it, tangible righteousness, but you know it by faith, by reading, by confirmation deep within. If you believe in that, begin to live by righteousness without having any proof, and you do that right here in this body which is prone to so much, then when you transition into the impossible realm, that's what you would call it if you could call it right now, and when you transition, there's nothing in existence or nothing out of existence that would ever break your loyalty to the living God once you're there. Because those who walk by faith here develop a relationship, and it builds upon something that can never be broken once the promise comes to them. When you do transition, you will be in all truth, all love, all security. You will know certain things that nobody else can know, right? But you can't know that here. Your brain's not big enough. But your capacity to know things in that realm is far different than this one. So people are born here. But Jesus was quite clear. Somebody came and sowed a very different type of spirit in the children born here. And in the parable, one of the angels says, should we go and uproot them? No, don't do it unless you damage the wheat. Let them both grow together. And when they're full grown, we'll harvest them all. Why wait till they're full grown? Because no one has an initial identity when they're first born. They discover who they are through various ways that God designed. It's a way of growth, a healthy way of growth, but it begs the question your entire life. You always ask yourself, who am I? Where did I come from? All these different questions. But then, even having no answer to that, you begin to serve the Lord. You begin to, by faith, serve the Lord. By confirmation that tends to come out of you. The more you begin to operate by faith, the more you find out that that realm is real. You begin to know things. Gifts manifest within you. All of you have gifts. They're just not manifest yet. It's almost like they're under lock and key until you commit to walking a specific way, and then they're unlocked. The limiters are taken off. And there truly is nothing you can accomplish here if you have the faith enough to do it. Because when your faith is there, your loyalty is too. And it won't be broken. But the tares are the same way. They don't know who they are either. Until what? Until they're full grown. That's when you find out who you are. After you go through this process of development, you find out who you are. Now let me ask you this. It's not that an evil spirit comes and invades a baby. Nope, that's not what it is. Who sanctioned Goliath's birth? Surely he was a third, fourth generation Nephilim in the earth, and he should have died. All of them should. In fact, many of them did die. The children also. None was spared when Joshua went against that specific place. The children were not spared. They were told to not leave anybody alive, women, children, or anything else. Why? Why did God command them not to leave anybody alive? Because they were not like you and I. They looked like you and I on the outside, but they were not like you and I. If God would command a child to be killed like that, then he already knows what that child truly is, and they're not like you. There are children on the earth right now. They're not like you. Tares exist in the earth. Don't think of a tare as just one thing. It is a slew of things. But they're in the earth, in the flesh, just like you and I. If they grow like you and I, they can do maximum damage to you and I. If they did not grow up as small children to adults like you and I, we would never accept them into our folds. We would never be fooled by them. Your discernment is too high. Just like an animal can be born in the wilderness. And if a small dog sees a sheep, he's not going to be moved by it. If a small dog saw a bear, he's not going to be moved by it. But if a human being pops up in uniform, all the animals take notice. Why? Because a human being does not belong in that fold. You see the difference? As soon as a human being pops up, all the animals scatter. But if an animal shows up among animals, they don't scatter. They just do what they do. Why? Because they were all born together. They accept one another. There's a mechanism in there of recognition where they recognize what is supposed to be there and what is not supposed to be there. And if something that's not supposed to be among them pops up, they're gone. All of them. You're the same way. That's why the tares grow up with you, or they would never be accepted. You can never be tested in certain ways because you would always identify the tares. They wouldn't have a job. Thus, that would defeat the entire purpose. You could not be properly tried for your loyalties without the tares. See how that works? I know a lot of you would just love it if the tares didn't exist. It would happen a long time ago, and Satan fell a long, long time ago. He was created not as a child, but perfectly. And he looked upon himself and saw his own beauty, and he thought within himself to have his throne above God's throne. He was not loyal, and because of that, he was cast out. We go through a process. You could say that you're the standard for the new process. You go through a process where you have no abilities except the basic ones. And you're tested without power, without beauty, without all these things. You're tested with frailties on this earth to see who you will actually serve. You prove that here. The only damage you can do here is to yourself. You prove who you're going to serve with everything you do in this life. For those who serve the Lord without seeing Him, without having proof or doing anything else, for those who serve Him now, when they are in an eternal state, they'll never fall. The fallen angels, they fell. They were beguiled, and they fell. When you transition, you're going to be beguileless. Satan will never be able to beguile you. It's very clear what the Lord is doing. If Satan fell in the beginning, then he makes all of his creation impervious to being beguiled by anything that ever fell. Part of the qualification of your graduation of becoming something else is true sons. God is raising children, not robots. True sons of the living God, that's you, not robots. You're being tried on every side because you're being qualified to be children, to be in the family of the living God, not robots. You will not be servants. You will be children of the living God. That's why you're joint heirs with Christ. You will be part of His declarative word in existence. You're going to be so much more than what you can conceive. And it begins here. You could not be tested by darkness, which is what it exists for. You couldn't be tested by darkness unless it grew up with you. Because what you grow up with, you accept as part of your environment. Why do you think when certain lights appear, people reject it? They're startled by it. They're not going to sit around and hang around with it and talk. Everything in them says it does not belong. Discernment. People have experiences out there with certain things that pop up out of nowhere, and everything within them says, don't even communicate with them. But you will talk to your friend, and your friend could be like Hitler when he grows up. Your friend could be like Goliath when he grows up. You don't know who your friend on earth could be, your childhood friend, but they're accepted. You grow together, correct? That's why in the book of Jude, it says they're in your feasts of charity. They are near you. And who are these? They were before of old ordained to be ungodly men. Before of old, they were ordained to be ungodly men. That means it was always purpose for them to be ungodly. They're a part of your test. Everything you do, there's a trial going on right now. You're the evidence. Those of you who believe in Christ, you truly do belong to Christ. But if you're not tried, you won't even know how. Nor would you have the knowledge to communicate how one can belong to Christ or be a child of the living God. So you're gaining wisdom. But most importantly, you're learning to say yes through all conditions. Your saying, I love you, Lord, is being qualified right here on this earth with everything you do. Those who finally make it are those who love not their lives to death. They finished their race. They didn't let anything get in the way of their servitude to the Lord. And by the way, servitude to the Lord is servitude to your brothers and your sisters. You cannot serve the Lord directly because everything he requires of us is giving love to our neighbor, showing mercy to the evil around us. That's why it's written, God is kind to the unthankful and to the evil. Why? Because God is a bit more than we could ever conceive. He does not have to fight anything. He didn't have to lift a finger to fight anything. But we're going through a process of qualification here. This process is important, and it determines the truth of us. When you get a puppy, they all look cute at first, most of them do. But what do you test a dog out for? His loyalty, correct? That dog has a purpose. In order for that dog to efficiently exact its purpose in the earth, he has to be tested by way of his loyalty. You don't want that dog turning on you, do you? You want him to guard your family, not to turn on you, correct? So they all look cute at the beginning, and the only way to find that out about a dog is to begin his training, to send him through crucible, through test after test after test. And then you find out if the dog is loyal or not. But if you went off good looks, you know you can be fooled. Many of us did that. We did that with other people. What are you talking about? So some of these babies that you see, they're not like you. They have the same skin. Their skin comes from the earth just like yours. All of us come from dirt. The earth has all the materials we have within us. We come from dirt. Inside of us, however, what makes all of this work in tandem and unison, what has directed all of this to serve our spirits, that's a different story. This is a vehicle, a temporary vehicle. And we do many things in this vehicle, but eventually it goes back to the earth. And should you be here at the time the Lord comes back, you're going to be changed. That means your body is still not going. It is not redeemable. If it were redeemable, the earth would not be destroyed. You will be in a body without corruption, and it will complement you who will be without corruption once you graduate from this place. A massive judgment will take place at the end. And in that judgment, what is the ultimate question? The question is, who was loyal to the Father and who was not? Who truly accepted him as Father and who did not? Because the truth of us is being found out just like we find out the truth of an animal if it's loyal or not. Same thing. If an animal is found loyal, then you spend your money, bring it into your household and spoil it and all things of that nature and love it to pieces because it becomes part of the family. But if a dog turns out not to be loyal, it's a good thing you send it through its paces to find out. Because you don't want a dog in your family that will turn on your children and destroy them and destroy the entire house. So the Lord has a way of bringing what's on the inside of us to the surface, what's deep down within us to the surface. And in this case, who we really are is being brought out to the surface, what we will do in every given situation. Now remember, you're in a human body that's prone to everything. So when you say yes despite the dangers, yes despite the risk to yourselves, when you're saying yes to the Lord, in this frail body, you have really made a huge decision. Because when you're in that eternal body that cannot be damaged, it cannot be hurt, it does not get old and all this other stuff, then you'll be worthy of being in the family of the Most High. Because you said yes when you had nothing. It's kind of like one of the old stories, right? If a person loves you when you have nothing, then when you have something, you're going to have a beautiful relationship. But if a person loves you when you have something, but as soon as you lose it all, they're done with you, then all that person wanted was something from you. They did not want you. See how that works? In Genesis says it grieved God that he made man. It didn't say he was unaware of what was coming because he told us what was coming. Just grieved him that he made man. What he sees us go through is not easy for him. but because he is a faithful and just Father. Our trials are thorough and true. And you grow up among, some real devils in the flesh. You don't know who is who. That will only be known at the fullness of our maturity here. The Lord said he would take the wicked and bundle them up. Didn't he say that? That's been going on. Do you know what happens to the wicked? They join forces in kingdoms in this world, in groups in this world. They do it all the time. That's why you don't fit in certain groups. Haven't you noticed that? The Lord said he would take the tares and he would bundle them together. That's what he'll do with them. He's going to cause them to group together. That's what he does with the tares. But with the wheat, he's going to put the wheat in his barn. But he will make the tares join together. That's what you see in the world. That's why the Lord says, those who love the world, the love of God is not in them. To love the world is to have enmity with God. Why? Because the world is where these tares bundle themselves together. And they're after riches, they're after power and dominion. That's what they're after. So they join forces and they have their little groups and clubs and everything else. And they always try to recruit and corrupt you by it. That's why you're called out of those things. That's why you're almost double-minded. Those of you who are involved in politics right now, you're double-minded in politics. There are some folks in COT that are in politics, but with conviction you're there. In other words, a part of you wants to be there, but a part of you can't stand it. A part of you understands what's really in it. That's it. The kingdom of the beast is the fullness of the bundling of the tares of the earth. That's what the kingdom of the beast is. And when they're all together, and God has secured all of his children in his barn, the harvest will be over. And the kingdom of the beast will be thrust into darkness. Babies, all babies, are flesh. Babies are flesh that contains something on the inside of what a person really is. Just because they're cute does not mean they're not deadly. Hitler was probably cute. Goliath was likely cute. All the Rephaim were probably, they could have been cute babies, but they were deadly. Even right now, they clone children. You guys know they have children they have cloned? Do you know they have children they have created? China has children they have created. They have a girl they created. This is like the 15th one. This girl they created, they have manipulated the genes so that certain genes come out, other genes are suppressed. They have created this small child. The child can't be more than, 16 months old right now? She grew in a fake womb. She was put together in a laboratory by assignment, computer picked. She's the result of a selection of genes. That's what she is. The USA had one of those also. There are things that happen in the USA, especially with artificial insemination, that you wouldn't believe. You don't know what's been locked away in the freezer. You don't know that unless you kept it yourself and looked at it every day. You don't know if it's been swapped, switched, or what. You don't know. In truth, you do not know. We are far too trusting. And we trust these companies to do exactly what they say, but we won't trust the Lord to do exactly what he says. What's wrong with us? Because they have done things that are unforgivable. Nevertheless, we have created children. Where do their spirits come from? There's some children right now, well, they're not really children. They're about 8 or 9 right now. They've been created as well. You couldn't tell that they've been created. That's not something you'd be able to tell. You couldn't tell that. But they created them. They're nice children. They're almost nice. Evil is not always a monster. True evil is very kind. True evil is attractive. True evil is sweet. True evil can say the right things all the time. That's what true evil is. True good in this world is always perceived by the world to be something corrupted. To date, the world has always called something that's been truly good corrupted. Do you know that? And whatever's been highly corrupted and full of corrosion, the world has always called good. They call evil good and good evil. The world does. And all those involved with the world. So a spirit doesn't enter into the baby, so to speak. Not in that way. Not that the baby is taken over by some evil spirit. No. These children are before of old ordained to be ungodly. From the foundations of the earth, they were coming. The bloodlines they come through, they will come. And they are condemned already. There is no hope for salvation in them. That means there are newborns out there and there's no hope of salvation for that newborn because it comes in a bloodline that was already designated to carry something from the foundations of the world. As far as you Christian ladies out there, pray over your children, that your children won't be targets of these things where they wouldn't be able to handle it. Pray for grace and mercy. You have that right. I pray mostly for the eyes and the hearts of children to be opened unto the Messiah, that the Lord do a quick work with them and a true work, that they blow up the standards of men, that they lead the way in the coming days. with all faithfulness and strength. Did you guys have that about the small children? Hopefully so, because that means, listen, if the spirit or the essence of the person on the inside truly defines what they are, and the flesh only designates that they're on earth, then we have a problem bigger than we know, don't we? As I said before, it may not be like in the days of Noah when giants walked the earth, because listen to me, the giant bodies were produced by a union of strange elements and human flesh. Oversized things came of that, but that's by way of flesh. In this day and age, the same spirits that were in the giants are in short people, medium people, and tall people. Just as a man can be taken over by thousands of demons and his size not change, so do the giants walk the earth right now. Nice suits, and you know some of them very well. And ironically, some of them that you know very well have no problem telling you who their fathers truly are and who they're truly loyal to.